I'm Michelle Smart. I'm an enrolled agent trying to keep you updated on the latest on the Employee Retention Tax Credit. Please give a like so that anyone who's trying to find out the latest information can find this channel. Well, the lawsuits just keep on coming. And here's another lawsuit that's filed just to get the payment for their ERC refund. This is JPM Restaurant LLC versus the IRS. I will leave you a link below so that you can look at this lawsuit. They are simply filing to get their refund. We have Farr Construction Corporation also filing simply to get their payment. This is what we've come to now, that we have to file a lawsuit to get our refund in any kind of reasonable time frame. As we know, the deadline is quickly approaching for filing for the ERC for 2021. That deadline is April the 15th, 2025. And meanwhile, the third bill has been introduced as of September. A bill was introduced to retroactively end the ERC January 31st, 2024. Oh, well, so what? You're out of luck if you filed after that, even though it was, in fact, law. So I certainly hope third time is not a charm, but let's see what's the update on that bill. Here's the ERTC Repeal Act of 2024. This was introduced by three people, by Manchin, Romney, and Tillis. Two of those people are not seeking re-election, so let's just hope that with all of the changes in politics, that this is just left in the dust. Nothing new has happened to it except that it was read in September and it is in committee. Now, I do hope that you have written to your congressmen and women and told them that you are not in favor of this bill and that there is not the fraud that our IRS Commissioner Werfel has stated that there is. I have a letter for you that you can copy and paste or edit as you like to write to your Congress people. And you can go to resistbot.com and then you can just very easily email just by putting in your zip code and it'll go to your representatives. I wrote to my representative, Ron Wyden in Oregon, and he finally responded to me. You can copy of the letter that I wrote. It's in the links below. And he said, thank you for contacting me about the ERTC. I told them I'm for small businesses. They all need the money. What's the problem here? You're holding it up and hurting these guys. And that there is not the level of fraud that Werfel said there is. He needs to be fired because he's basically lying to Congress, telling them that there's all this fraud. It was his fault. Werfel was the commissioner. He should have set up fraud detection. Very simple to do. The people who got away with the massive fraud were not even in business and not paying payroll at the time. In 2020 and 2021, they didn't have any payroll. How did the IRS even send these guys refunds? So that is the fault of Werfel. He should have known that. He should have had a little bit of simple tests to do. Did you file a 941 and pay payroll taxes? If you didn't, maybe they'll have a second step to double check why you're applying for the ERC. So he writes back and says, oh, well, basically it's a budget thing, yada, yada. There's all this fraud, which is a lie. And, or fraud that Werfel should have caught. So he can pound his chest all he wants, stating that he found all this fraud. Dude, that was your job. And you were warned by the AICPA and all the accounting professionals that you should be checking for fraud and just being careful. But the people who are left waiting and paying the price are you, the small businesses. And I got an email from one of you this last week. This is probably representative of most of you. She's trying to keep the doors open on her small business, waiting and waiting to get her ERC refund. Meanwhile, cannot afford to pay the payroll taxes anymore on her employees as she's waiting for this money that's due to her. And now she's having to pay them in cash waiting and waiting. All these people on the verge of bankruptcy, all the accounting professionals knowing clients who have had to file for bankruptcy because they haven't got their refund. And all of these lawsuits that are going against the IRS that are filed just because the IRS is not paying a refund that's due. It's outrageous. Now, here we have a more interesting lawsuit, which is going into the APA violations. This is Stenson, Tamaddon, and ERC Today teaming up, filing against the IRS. I believe these are two large companies that were filing ERC on behalf of many clients, and they are claiming again this APA violation. What is this? It's an Administrative Procedures Act. And what that means is the IRS is an agency of the government. So the CARES Act was the law that was written that allowed for the ERC, and that act gets interpreted by the IRS, and they define how to implement the law. And if they take too much leeway and define the law in a way that it maybe wasn't intended, or they define how you qualify for the ERC very narrowly, then they may be in violation of the APA. So this is rather a lengthy lawsuit. They've claimed that the IRS arbitrarily and capriciously violated by issuing summary boilerplate disallowances. Now, you know about that, especially if you filed for third quarter 2021. They sent out disallowance letters for everyone. And we all knew as tax professionals that was ridiculous. They disallowed people without having any information on their status. So they did this, I think, assuming that the laws that suspended people were over in third quarter of 2021. However, you can qualify due to reduction in gross receipts, a 20% reduction comparing third quarter 2019 to third quarter 2021, and then you qualify if you had a 20% reduction. Well, they just completely ignored that and sent out all these letters. Got a call from a client today that got one of these letters, IRS disallowance letter. You need to respond within 30 days or call the IRS saying, I need more time. But that's what they're talking about in this. One of the things they're talking about in this lawsuit, and I will leave the link so you can look at this. Congress enacted this. They guaranteed these refunds. The IRS disfavors the ERC. Now, this is an interesting point. It's clear Werfel is anti-ERC. He went to Congress after he illegally enacted a moratorium for more than 9 months, really slowed down the payment, causing businesses to go bankrupt. And then he encouraged the government to end the ERC early. You're not a legislator. I'm sorry, Werfel, that's not your job. Your job is to do what the law is and to give these refunds. And so I wrote a letter to my congressman saying, Werfel's off the wall here. He's claiming that there's all this fraud. But this goes on to say that this is unlawful action on the part of the IRS, and it's citing the different rules, that the violations of the APA, that the IRS narrowly defined how you qualify for the ERC, which was not intended by the law that was put out in the CARES Act. And the agency, the IRS, had no authority to do this, and they've never publicly disclosed their rules. Now, one of the other things mentioned here is there is a rule that the agency must publish what they intend to use when they interpret the law, and then they have to leave that open for public comments for a certain amount of time. And there's no doubt that the IRS violated that APA requirement. They are required to do this, and they didn't do it. So this is an extensive lawsuit that goes into this. What's going to happen if this lawsuit is successful? And parts of it are undeniable. Some of those counts are absolutely undeniable. The IRS, it would be on the internet if they had opened the laws that they intended to put into place to public comment, then we would all know that that happened, and we would all have made comments on it, but they didn't do that part. So whether or not they are found in violation on all of these counts will affect how the ERC is processed and who may or may not qualify and how much you have to prove, say, in an audit in order to get the qualifications, in order to get the refund. And thank you to the people who are like making comments and letting me know where they stand. I think it's a pretty good representation of where most of you are. These businesses that are just barely keeping their doors open because they're waiting for these refunds that have been due to them. Some for 2 years, they're still waiting. They don't have their money and they need it. So please write your representatives, and especially I would say we could write also to Elizabeth Warren. She is not in favor of retroactively ending the ERC early, and I would like her to give a big push that we need to get rid of Werfel, the IRS commissioner, and this ERC should actually be extended to make up for the fact that they did all this fear mongering and false claims of fraudulent behavior. So thanks for watching. Please give a like and comment below if you finally got a letter that you are getting your refund or any updates that you have, as us collectively, we are all collectively helping each other by sharing our information. Thanks again. I'm Michelle Smart. I'm an enrolled agent.